to let it happen. I had to change. Couldn't stay all my life down at heel. Looking out of the window, staying out of the side. So I chose freedom, running around trying everything new, but nothing impressed me at all. I never expected it to.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Sweep. I'm your host, Anthony Longhair Leclair, and I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, the marvelous Marla, the Mouse McHardy.
What's up, everybody?
We have a question for you. Did you know that
On this day
in 1977, Julie Covington was at number 1 in the UK single charts with Don't Cry For Me, Argentina?
I did not know that.
No?
No.
Oh, well, I know you did know that it was from Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical
Evita, yeah, we discussed this because you didn't know who Patti LuPone was, and I was like, what?
Do you know who Julie Covington was?
No.
Well, deal with it. So, but anyway, she had been in the 1977 UK TV series based on an all-female group called Rock Follies.
Interesting.
Which I did not know was a thing.
No, I didn't either.
And so that was in 1977 that she made Don't Cry For Me, Argentina a number 1 hit. And Madonna did the same in 1996.
Yeah, because she was in the movie.
Yeah, she was, with Antonio Banderas. Ooh. Yeah, so that was on this day in 1977. Hence the bookend today. With the marvelous Marla Mouse McHardy singing Don't Cry For Me, Argentina.
Got to bust out my musical theater chops, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta love that, you know, as a theater school nerd. And just general musical theater nerd. What are you staring at?
I'm just letting you, dig.
Myself?
You're like a nerd. Like a musical theater nerd. Like a theater school nerd in general. Like a nerd. And you just, keep going down. So, that was on this day in 1977. On this day in 2020... I have a question for you.
What's that?
Not just for you, for the audience as well. Feel free to answer the question in the comments. Mm-hmm. It's actually, so I know at least the first answer, but it's kind of like a 3-parter. Okay. So, first of all, and I do know the answer to this one, have you ever been to a rock concert?
Yes.
Okay. Second of all, and I'm not sure that I know the answer to this one, but I assume I know. But have you ever been to an orchestra concert?
No, I don't think so. I've been to, plays, and I've been to a ballet where there's been an orchestra, but, not specifically just an orchestra.
Huh. All right. Well, this makes the final part of this question more difficult for you to answer. But presumably you've seen orchestras before.
I've done
on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, and most musicals that I did when I did community theater had an orchestra.
Yeah, but it's not the same as an orchestra concert.
Yeah.
So my question was going to be, why do you think there is such an incredible difference between the rock concert and the orchestra concert?
I think, honestly, I think it comes down to theater etiquette, really, in my mind. I think it comes from a place of, if you're going to see an orchestra, typically, unless you're going to see, Hans Zimmer, you're typically not going to see it in, an arena, I would think. Whereas, when you go to a rock concert, you're although you can see some rock concerts in a theater, but, when I think of a rock concert, I think of, people standing up on the floor, everyone's jumping up and down and clapping and singing along and all that stuff. It's very much more high energy whereas when you see an orchestra, it's there's a certain, I guess, almost a theater etiquette. You're sitting down, you're not making noise when these people are playing because they are focusing hell on the music, and Like, I don't know, like, it's just a different theater etiquette, I would think. Like, I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, for sure. Like, absolutely. I know, like, we've watched a couple of different, like, the concerts for, like I was saying, Hans Zimmer on Netflix. And, like, that's a different, like, that's an orchestra, but that's a bit of a different vibe for an orchestra. Like, those guys are, like, having lots of fun with it. Whereas, like, I guess in my mind, when I think of, like, going to see an orchestra, like, people are playing the music, but it's more, like, of, like, a chill, like, very formal experience. I don't know, that's just in my mind. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's garbage.
Yeah?
I think it's stupid. And here, so just the difference, I think, is stupid. Mm-hmm. So yes, there is a higher energy vibe to a rock concert. I've also been to a few myself, mm-hmm. and some have, they're varying degrees of energy and intensity, but the whole orchestral concert thing kind of drives me mental. So when in the future you do go to one, because you likely will, being with me, mm-hmm. but when you do go to one, there is a certain degree of etiquette you're meant to exercise. So, for example, if you didn't know going in, and people would, like, be snobby to you about it, I'm sure, where you sit down, everyone settles, whatever, mm-hmm. the lights come up, the conductor comes on, everyone's just like, oh, hey, the conductor, he's an amazing human being, or she's an amazing human being, and then the first violin will come out and shake the conductor's hand, and you're like, oh, the first violin, what a fantastic musician, as opposed to the rest of the fucking orchestra, who are all also important, but no one really gives a fuck. And then the first violin will sit down, and it's all arranged, and most of the arrangement is sonically arranged, mm-hmm. right? So it makes sense to your ears when it's being projected. But mm-hmm. but there is this sense, and it's interesting when people say, like, oh, well, people who play this instrument have that personality or that personality. It is largely true. I've discovered there are exceptions, of course, and not everyone is like this, but I think a lot of people just buy into it, and it's ridiculous. But and then if there's a solo musician as well, then they will also come on and shake the hand, and everyone, how fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then they'll play several movements of a piece, and the conductor might give a speech about, oh, this is the thing that we're doing, and this is how everyone appreciate it. And then they will do several movements, but between the movements, you are not to clap. You are not to applaud after each movement. So, like, they will end, there will be silence, and there will continue to be silence until they play again, and then again, and then once all of that has finished, all of those movements in this series that they've played, you can applaud. Now,
that's when everybody golf claps.
That's right. And you need to know, based on the program, how many of these movements there are, so that you don't fuck that up. Because, and I swear I've seen it before, where, like, between movements, someone's like, woo, or, or like, whatever. And those are the people who go to rock concerts, because they're like, yeah, music. Uh-huh. Music's awesome. We should probably applaud and, like, whoop and cheer. Mm-hmm. And then everyone looks and like, oh my god, I can't even believe that person clapped. Like,
oh, I'm sorry that I'm sitting here showing fucking appreciation for your music. Like, oh my god, get over yourself. Yeah. Like,
it drives me fucking mental, this whole, I don't know, and I, like, a big part of me thinks it's just fucking snobbery that's just, like, been handed down generation after generation.
Oh,
it's just
I'm sure
traditional
it is.
Snobbery.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, and I hate it. And I dated a violinist once who was sometimes the one who would shake the conductor's hand. Of course, the conductor at the time was also her father, so who was actually super cool. He was a really cool dude, but I imagine he still is. But at any rate, like, going to those concerts, I was just like, oh. And I loved watching the conductor go. That's amazing. I loved watching. There's a visiting cellist who would show up, and she's from Deep River, and anyone who is listening from Deep River probably knows who I'm talking about. And she's got her own solo career as well. She sings and she plays the cello. So she's kind of hip, I guess. And is kind of flowy, hippy-dippy, whatever. But, so whenever she would visit, it was great, because I would just watch her. Because she was the only musician sitting in the whole fucking orchestra who was, like, moving and, like, her head's going while she's playing. And I was like, yes, someone who's actually engaged in the thing. And she's still reading the music, and that's fine. But, like, everyone else is reading the music. Like, fuck, I read chords and lyrics off a music stand every gig. But watching these people just like, very stern, very and you're like, you said earlier, like, I feel like they're more focused and blah, blah, blah. You're telling me a metal guitarist, like lead guitarist, isn't fucking focused on the million notes that they need to hit?
And they are.
And they are headbanging and dancing around and, like, giving the, like, hey, my dick's out pose and all that kind of stuff. Like,
The difference between that, though, is that, like, so when you're a metal guitarist, you're used to people that are like, yeah, fuck yeah, and it's like people hooting and hollering and yelling and like, like doing all kinds of crazy shit in the audience. Like, that doesn't distract you, but I feel like when you're in an orchestra, because you're not used to that, like, it's like someone in the audience, it's like in theater when someone in the audience, like, unwraps a freaking, like, piece of, like, hard candy, and everyone's like, oh, that's so distracting. Like, it's a completely, like, a different thing, and that's what I was thinking in my mind, was, like, you're not used to people, like, hooting and hollering and, like, doing all kinds of crazy shit in the audience.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of focus.
Yeah, but, I mean, the music's right there, so as long as you're looking at the page, you should be able to do the thing.
I mean, fair.
I mean, so, either way, I think it's an interesting question. Also, I just, like, because I was looking up questions to ask, and it was like, have you ever been to a rock concert? Have you ever been to an orchestra concert? And I was like, huh. And I just started thinking about the differences, and then I was just like, fuck, I want to talk about this today.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think, yeah, to me, I totally agree with you. Like, I think it's bullshit that you can't clap after, like, somebody does a movement. Like, I think music is there to be appreciated. And, like, I think, I get it, like, I'm sure all of this stuff was handed down from, like, however many hundreds of years ago. But, like, also, that doesn't mean it can't change.
Well,
Like,
I think over hundreds of years it has, in that I think hundreds of years ago, people were seeing these concerts, but largely they were like in a space where people were walking around and having food and chatting and doing whatever else while they played. Like, they weren't just being like, all right, well, let's go and sit here and do fuck all and only, and then somehow that evolved into, no, now we must show infinite respect by showing no emotion and not clapping for them until this moment. Mm-hmm. So there's so much fucking dead air going to an orchestra concert. Yeah. And it's just like, and like, if you get up to go to the washroom or something, it's just like, you are a horrible human being. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you get up to go to the washroom at a rock concert, if you aren't already standing anyway, you're only a horrible human being to yourself, because you're missing another moment that you want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's something there that's happening. There's like some sort of magic connection between the musicians and the audience that does not happen in an orchestra. Like, I can be overwhelmed by classical music and by an orchestral sound, but almost 90, maybe 99% of the time that I've been moved by an orchestral piece, it's been when I've been sitting at home.
Oh, no, and I completely agree with you on that.
Well, of course, you haven't been to an orchestra concert. But
no, but, like, I've heard orchestral music played live. But, like, it's like I've seen it in, like, the theater and whatnot. So, like, and I've seen a couple ballets. So that's kind of similar, because, like, like, if you're going to a ballet, it's like you are basically, like, you're listening to an orchestra while watching people dance. So, like, there's no talking or anything. It's just people dancing, so.
Yeah, but that to me is still different. Like, I'd be more moved by that simply because there is this visual aspect. It's the same with musicals. There's this visual aspect of it where we're investing in a story.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of the same as theater in that sense. You're right.
Like, the conductor will give a speech more often than not, perhaps, but not always, explaining, this was the story behind this piece, or this is what this is. So you're meant to, like, I guess, ruminate on that whilst you're listening to the piece, but there's nothing that it just seems like, and I know a lot of the musicians obviously are into the music, and that's great, but like they don't show it. And the difference to me is like Andre Rieu. I haven't gone to one of his concerts personally. My mom has, but they are dancing while they're playing, and they're like swaying around, and some of it's choreographed, and some sure it's garbage, but they're all laughing and having a good time while they're playing this music. And it's just like, what? A lot of people think it's just like, oh, well, that's hokey, whatever stuff. They're just doing that to get a rise out of people, and blah, blah, blah. It's their selling point. I'm like, it's a good fucking selling point.
It's a great fucking selling. That's why I love, like, when we were watching those Hans Zimmer specials, you know, because it's like, people are, like, you see the musicians on stage, and they are genuinely, like, really enjoying being up there, and they're, like, dancing around and stuff, and, like, Hans Zimmer's, like, going around and, like, playing a fucking banjo or whatever, like, it's, you know, it's great, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, and you're right, that is more of, like, superstar orchestra as opposed to just, like, in a school theater or auditorium or whatever else, but I still argue that fun can be had. It's just for some reason, and I'm not saying everyone who goes to an orchestra concert is a huge snob, but for some reason they've all bought into the idea that they must act in this way and put up this pretense to enjoy this music. If someone could explain to me why that is, and why everyone seems like dead against really fully enjoying the music in their body and in their voice and in, you know, in as you would in a normal fucking concert, I would love to know. Please leave that in the comments. Let us know in the comments what your take on this is, because I find it really interesting, and it's not something that I really know a whole hell of a lot about. So, like, I'd be interesting to hear people's opinions, I think. But yeah, so I think we've blabbered on for long enough. It's open mic night tonight.
Yeah. If you are in the North Bay area, come on down to the Fox.
Yeah. And if you want, you can swing between the open mic at Cecil's and then head up to the Fox, because we'll be going an hour longer than they will be. So start out there, come on up to the Fox, finish the night off with $7 doubles and all that kind of stuff. Good food deals and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Other self-promoting bullshit that I should say. So come on out to the open mic tonight from 9:30 till 1, and that's your daily sweep for the day, and we'll be back tomorrow to sweep something else out from underneath the proverbial rug. By the way, this is episode 100.
Woo! 100th episode. That's so exciting.
It was so unexciting at the beginning, I didn't even think to mention it, and I was like, no, wait a minute, there was something else I was supposed to say.
100 whole episodes. Well, holy shit.
Of the Daily Sweep. We have like 140 some episodes.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the 100th Daily Sweep. And that is your 100th Daily Sweep for today, and only today.
And we'll see you guys later!
Don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is I never left you. All through my wild days, my mad existence, I kept my promise. Don't keep your distance.
Like and subscribe.